I want to acknowledge my parliamentary colleague, Dave Smith, the Secretary of my department, Natalie James, and we have a number of representatives from both the trade union movement and from business organisations, Sally McManus and Michelle O'Neill, Innes Willocks, Andrew McKellar, Tanya Constable and Danita Warren, all people who've been involved at different levels in different ways in what has been a mammoth consultation task in getting the legislation together. Legislation which I'll be introducing after question time on Monday, and it will be called the Closing Loopholes Bill. Given that it's a press club, I thought it was reasonable here, of all the different venues, that I could read something from the press. So, there's an article that was published on the 23rd that I just want to draw to your attention. It'll sound familiar. Australia's largest employer organisations have threatened a fully funded anti-government campaign unless the Minister for Industrial Relations satisfactorily consults them on proposed changes to the Act. A meeting of the 5 big organisations in Melbourne unanimously resolved to fund a campaign unless they were satisfactorily consulted. They were already funding commitments to the campaign and planning had begun. The meeting was convened by the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry and was attended by the Business Council of Australia, the National Farmers Federation and other organisations. Legislation, and they went on to say, the legislation is an unfair and unbalanced document which ignores both employer interests and the fundamental issues of labour market reform. It's completely unacceptable to employers and it does nothing to encourage investment or create jobs. It would in fact cost jobs and reduce investment. Even though we're at the press club, the person who wrote that article is not in the room today, and that's because it was Mike Taylor when he was the writer for the Canberra Times on the 23rd of September 1993. Not much has changed. But when he wrote that, let's also remember what was the big reform that had different groups so alarmed. It was enterprise bargaining. It was the exact reform that when we were dealing with multi-employer bargaining last year, we were told, but surely if you want good productivity outcomes, enterprise bargaining is where you should be looking. So there's a whole lot when you deal with reform where there are debates you are automatically in. And similar to during the election campaign, when the Prime Minister talked about the need to make sure in the annual wage review that wages didn't go backwards. We were told by our opponents at the time that that was reckless and dangerous. When Secure Jobs Better Pay legislation was introduced to the Parliament last year, we were told it would lead to unemployment, we were told it would lead to strikes, we were told it would fail in getting wages moving. Well, on all of that, the results are now in. At the exact same time that inflation has been moderating, what's been happening in our workplaces? Wages have gone up. The wage price index at the moment at 3.6% has a 3 in front of it, something that didn't happen under the previous government where low wage growth was a deliberate design feature of their management. In fact, not only did it not have a 3 in front of it, wage price index in the entire history of the index has only had 9 quarters where it's been below 2. And all of those have happened under coalition governments.